Most of us have just returned from design challenges, and now as a member of that team, you work to develop some innovative approaches to some pressing problems and intriguing opportunities. We want to share some insights from some of those team leaders from the design challenge with you for a bit this afternoon. So please welcome Melissa Bradley Burns of Green for All, Rodney Harrell from AARP, and Marietta Rodriguez from NeighborWorks America.
They said, come into the light. Oh, it's a little bright. It's a little bright. My name is Melissa Bradley Burns, and most importantly, for just about 30 hours, I've been a brand new board member of CFED, so I hope you're having as much fun as I am. Are you having fun? That was a little lame for DC. It's a little lame. So I'm happy to say that I want to thank Mary Mountcastle from Self-Help, who was our co-facilitator, and our topic was green jobs, how do they enhance community and individual development? And we had a very vibrant crowd. We had some rural experts. We had folks that were from the Federal Reserve Bank, so it was a very eclectic group. And I think the three areas we walked away with were, one, is that when we often see and hear the administration and others, we're always focused on America's cities. But it's extremely important that we do not forget about the resources of human capital, certainly financial capital, and lots of social capital and land capital in our rural communities. And so we spent, uh-oh. The spots are leaving. So it's important to make sure that the work that we're doing and the administration is doing is actually focused in rural communities as well, where we know that we have tons of space and tons of intellectual capital that should be leveraged and oftentimes is overlooked. The second thing is standards. We certainly have seen this cycle of trying to create jobs and throwing money at it and hoping that some jobs come out, and expectations of jobs end up being in the millions, and the reality is they oftentimes come down to the hundreds. And I think we saw it around welfare reform, we saw it around everybody trying to jump on the .com. So this was a real opportunity for us to do things differently. Innovation is sometimes just doing something differently. It doesn't have to be brand new, but actually doing it better. And so this is a real opportunity to begin to focus on standards in training, so to make sure that when somebody comes out, they actually will get a job and not just a certificate. Standards in terms of how money is deployed, and standards around evaluation and metrics. So that was also important. And the final thing was collaboration. Green is big. It's huge, and there's no one that can do it better than another person. And this is a real opportunity, probably for the first time, to have sectors actually come together. And I don't mean just the renewable sector and the energy efficiency sector, but the capital sector, the nonprofit sector, the community development sector, the faith-based sector. This is a real opportunity to see all of us come together to actually try and create more jobs and improve the environment. So we are thrilled. Thank you again to Mary and to all those who attended.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now, Michael Torrens and I had the grand idea of talking about what drives the bias of manufactured housing. And what you've seen today from some of our innovators are some great ideas on improving some ideas for improving the lives and property of manufactured homeowners and communities. And the larger question, though, still remains, and that there is, in our opinion, at least, a great bias against manufactured housing. And so we talked with our wonderful group about what drives some of those biases and to try to take a quick stab at some solutions. So it was a lot for our short time allotment. But I think we came up with a few kind of major conclusions. And the first one is that there are a lot of biases against manufactured home owners and developments. Some of those are based in reality, and some are actual vestiges of bias that don't have any bearing, but others really are based on some of the homes that are perhaps substandard. And so solutions have to really begin to address that point. And when talking about solutions, the first thing is really talking about the fact that manufactured homeowners are owners and investors, both in their homes and communities. And the third key point ties into that, because really getting the message out to the mainstream through the media, policymakers, and the general population, that there are diversity within manufactured homeowners, that these are not just necessarily the older trailer parks that some perceive as blight, but there's a whole entire range of housing there in communities that serve all. And I think it's a great issue for us to really look at, because these homes are very important sources of housing in rural areas, not just for older Americans, as ARP is interested in, but for a range of people in those areas. And I want to, again, thank basically all of my members on our panel, I guess, that helped with the thinking there. And thanks again to CFED.
So Laura Arce and I facilitated a group talking about if we were able to rebuild the Community Reinvestment Act for the next 10 years, what would that look like? And we had a small but mighty group that tackled this small challenge. Our first discussion really centered around, in the current act, in the current regulation, who's excluded and who might be, how could we be more inclusionary? And some of the industries that came up for us in this discussion were insurance companies, independent mortgage companies, as well as financial service subsidiary organizations. Could we bring them into encouraging deeper and more real community investment? The second topic that our group then went on to is there a way in the next 10 years for the next decade to rebuild this regulation that really encourages regional economic development and economic investment? Oftentimes, currently, financial institutions are very focused on those census tracts in which they need to invest. And sometimes it's at the sacrifice of a broader regional development strategy. And so how can we get away from those bank footprint constraints and encourage, and is there an opportunity also to encourage other industries to participate, such as large employers and other industry in that vein? And then the third discussion, and there was a lot of other discussions, so these were some of the nuggets that came to the top for us, was, is there a way to really focus and encourage what was described as real investment that would then leverage other investment versus just charitable contributions, which are still necessary. I mean, it wasn't to the exclusion of that, but is there a way to really do that? And is there a way to build in, penalty versus sort of what may not be considered as strong encouragement? So those are the three things that bubbled up for us, but this is certainly a large topic. But thank you to our small but mighty group.